Hello and welcome to this week's 401k plan review. Before we get into it, let's read through our disclosures quickly. This video provides general education. Nothing shared in this video should be considered specific tax, legal, or investment advice. Don't act on any of this information without first consulting your tax, legal, or investment advisor. We appreciate the group. A few people have reached out and said, review my plan and send me some documents. So we're going to work through those. We're going to sprinkle in 403Bs, small plans, startup plans, and large size plans. So this one is a Midwestern company. It's got about $150 million in assets and nearly 1,000 participants. So remember, when we say participants, we're talking about employees who are currently there and have balances. There could also be some former employees who have made a decision to keep their balance in the plan, and also some beneficiaries of former employees. So that's what's factored into that participant number. We're going to take a look at the service model, the fee structure, some investment choices, and we're going to benchmark that plan a little bit against some of the other ones of similar size. The participant in our Facebook group sent me some information regarding the service model, which is something you don't normally pull off the IRS Form 5500 or the audit report. So I appreciate him sending over that information. And I know it's small here on the screen and you probably can't see it, but what it was is just a list of some of the webcasts that were available to plan participants here. I like this list. It's not completely investment related, which I really like too. There's some discussions in here about budgeting and Social Security. So they're covering the whole aspect of participant education through the course of the work career. There looks like there's some webcasts on here that are designed for people just starting in the workforce and some who are approaching retirement. So from a service aspect, I really like what this plan was offering to its participants. The fee structure, one of the things that I liked here is they're pushing back the revenue sharing that occurs inside the mutual funds right back to the employees who are in those specific funds. So 401k plans have a few different options here. So one of the things you see is when there's revenue sharing that comes through on a mutual fund, sometimes it goes into a bucket, an ERISA bucket or plan expense account, and that's used to pay some of the plan fees from that bucket. Sometimes you'll see it come back and be spread among all the employees or participants evenly. In this scenario, they do it what I believe to be the right way. They're just simply pushing it back to the people that are using those mutual funds. So there's some funds here in this investment lineup who have some revenue share, and it's just, again, going right back to the people who hold those funds. Most of the mutual fund companies now at this point have zero revenue share or clean shares. Sometimes you hear where there is no revenue sharing and it's just a strictly, institutional level share class with really low expenses and no revenue sharing involved. But there are a couple funds in this plan that do that, but they just push that revenue sharing back to the participants. So I like that. One of the things we also pulled off some of the documentation is that participants are immediately invested in employer contributions. It says employee contributions here, the way it's written up, but that's always the case where your contributions as the employee are always fully vested and you can take those with you. The employer here was putting in these contributions, and as soon as that goes in, if that participant were to separate from service, that money goes with them. So that's a nice feature. That's an added benefit to the employees there. And I know when you're going out and you're doing enrollment meetings for new plan or new participants, and you go through that vesting schedule and everybody sort of nods their head and they understand it until they actually have to go through it. So I've seen people who separate from service and they say, I checked my balance online and it was X and I got this check for X minus, or it only rolled over, because they're not familiar with the vesting schedule. And maybe they're not reading their statements thoroughly enough. So in this situation, what you see on that statement is yours to take with you. So I like that this plan does that. Another thing that's kind of interesting here with this plan is if account balance is below 5,000, they don't have to pay that record keeping fee. Now in this plan, because of its size, the fees are relatively low. So it's sort of I don't want to say a token move, but it's not necessarily that big a deal, but it's nice that they do this. So the overall plan expenses here, they're doing record keeping administration through Charles Schwab and Company. So it's 9 basis points on a $5,000 balance. It's only $4.50 a year, but it's nice that those balances are under that balance. It's waived, so that's a nice thing to see. So that 9 basis points is all encompassing. So that includes the record keeping, the administration, and some of those online webcasts, which we saw. In this plan, another feature to it is they do have some personalized advice through Morningstar, which is nice to see. And that's sort of an optional thing where participants can log on and go through the Morningstar Retirement Manager at no additional cost. So Charles Schwab, with their 9 basis points, makes about $140,000 a year on this plan. And it also says that folks who are using the PCRA, which is a personal choice retirement accounts, that's basically a self-directed brokerage account, meaning you can go into that brokerage window and buy almost anything you want as far as individual stocks, ETFs, mutual funds. So money that's in that self-directed brokerage account is not subject to that 9 basis points. The investment lineup, it's got a really good lineup here. And they've made some changes in the last couple of years. So that tells me that they've got a good investment committee who's staying on top of things. So they moved from the Vanguard index funds to the Fidelity index funds. And at that same time, it looks like they also moved from the Wells Fargo Stable Value Fund to the Putnam Stable Value Fund. So the reason they would do this is because to save some extra basis points, they probably saw a fee reduction when they went from Vanguard to Fidelity. A word of caution, not specifically to this plan, but a couple of things you need to look for there is it's not always about the expense ratio in index funds. You really need to take a look at what index that fund actually follows. So sometimes you might be going from mid-cap index fund A to mid-cap index fund B and thinking you're going to save, a few extra basis points, but they may not even follow the same index. And as you go down the scale, mid-cap and small cap, you're more likely to see some different indexes be involved. So make sure that all sort of fits together, that your indexes complement each other and that you're staying maybe in the same index family. This fund, this plan, because of its size, is using all institutional level share classes, meaning that's the least expensive share class offering from all these funds. An example of that is Growth Fund of America. So American Funds has a lot of different share classes. R6 is the retirement share class that is the least expensive. This fund lineup has a good mix of active funds, meaning there are portfolio managers who are picking stocks and deciding when to buy and sell those versus passive funds, which are index funds, which follow a specific list of stocks. So it has a good mix of two of those. And they're using the State Street Global Advisors, SSGA, target date funds, which is a pretty good program. And they've averaged 7 basis points throughout the target date fund series, no matter what vintage you're in. So that's a pretty good lineup. The benchmarking, we've talked about this before. There's a few benchmarking services out there. This is a company called Brightscope. So when I'm doing my benchmarking, I don't entirely base it obviously on a third party, but if you're working with a plan sponsor, a business owner, HR, you want to say, here's an outside service that I have no affiliation with, and here's how they rated your plan. So in this scenario, they rated this particular retirement plan an 81, which is very good. So this is just an example of some of the third-party services that are out there. Overall, I love this service model. I love the webcasts that are available. The plan design, they do a lot of really good things here. As far as waiving the funds for less than $5,000 balances, they do have a 3% match, and that's immediately invested. So we love that. The investment lineup, very good. I'm giving it a little bit of an A- here because, the target date funds aren't necessarily my favorite. The fees are really good. The only thing you could really sort of try to poke holes in here would be that 9 basis points from Schwab. Sometimes you'll see a plan this size. There'll be a fixed cost per participant or a fixed cost overall to the plan. And another thing that the plan could do here, the company could actually pick up that $140,000 that they're paying to Schwab. This is a really big company. Even though that sounds like a lot, it's probably not a huge bill for this company. So they could certainly do that rather than pushing those fees back on the employees or the participants in the plan. But even the fact that they do, it's not that big a deal at 9 basis points. It's certainly very reasonable. So overall, I'd rate this plan an A. So thank you again to the Facebook group member who sent all this information to me and was pulling it off his login and sending it over to me. So we took a combination of what he sent me versus some of the public disclosure documents that were available to put this video together for you. So if you're watching this video on YouTube, please take a look at my Facebook group and join that so you're getting up-to-date information on when these videos are posted. And if you're watching this in the Facebook group, hop over to YouTube and see if you can subscribe to this channel. We'd really appreciate that. So we offer a lot of services to plan sponsors, reviews like this, obviously a little bit more in-depth, and also to some advisor services if they would like to have an outside third party take a look at some of their plans or some of the ones that they're focusing on prospecting. So again, we appreciate you logging on and watching this video. If you have a plan yourself that you or a spouse or family member, you want to have that plan reviewed, reach out to me. We're looking for plans of all sorts of different sizes, and we're going to review those plans and bring those out to you. Thank you.